There is nothing more dangerous than hype in Star Wars. You see a name like Cad Bane pop up, and your brain instantly goes into overdrive. You start remembering every moment he outsmarted a Jedi, or made the Republic look like amateurs. You think about that voice, those eyes, that hat. You picture the dusty standoffs, and the way he always seemed to move ahead of everyone else. And then you realize, oh no, they are about to do it. They are actually going to put him in live action. And for a second, it feels like a dream come true. The man himself strolling into the frame like he owns the planet. Every step he takes is dripping with menace, like he is about to call out your entire bloodline. You can almost smell the smoke in the air, and hear the echo of every bad decision that led to this moment. He looks exactly like he should, maybe even better. And you were thinking, this is it. This is going to be the showdown we tell our grandkids about. But then the little voice in your head starts whispering. You remember all the other times Star Wars brought back a legend just to knock them out faster than a stormtrooper at target practice. You wonder if this is going to be a slow burn, or one of those blink and you miss it situations. And sure enough, the pacing feels a little too quick. The dialogue cuts just a little too short. You start to get that sinking feeling that somebody in the writer's room thinks this is enough. And it is wild because Cad Bane is not some random bounty hunter you made up last week. This is the guy who robbed the Jedi Temple, kidnapped senators, and made Anakin Skywalker look like he needed a tutor. He is the gunslinger of gunslingers, the outlaw every other outlaw tells stories about. You do not just throw him into a scene like he is there to fix the printer. He deserves build-up, tension, drama, the kind of stuff that makes your pulse skip a beat. Instead, we get this bizarre mix of brilliance and disappointment. The costume, the voice, the presence, they nailed it. But the way the story uses him feels like buying a Ferrari just to drive it to the grocery store. You know it can do more. You can hear the engine begging for open road. But nope, we are just here for milk and bread. And when it is over, you are left staring at the credits like, wait, that is it? That is really all we are doing with him. In this video, we are going to break down exactly how Cad Bane's return in the Book of Boba Fett went from one of the most exciting moments in Star Wars to one of the most frustrating. We will dig into why his live-action debut had so much potential, why the execution left so many fans disappointed, and how his story could have been told in a way that truly honored his legacy. And yeah, we are going to have some laughs along the way, because sometimes the only way to deal with wasted potential is to roast it just a little. Cad Bane had been a legend in the Clone Wars for over a decade, a blue-skinned gunslinger who could outthink Jedi and outrun death itself. So when he walked into the Book of Boba Fett with that wide-brim hat and gravelly voice, it felt like Star Wars history unfolding right in front of us. You could feel the years of backstory trailing behind every step he took. Fans who had followed his every scheme and double-cross could not help but lean forward. This was the guy who tangled with Obi-Wan Kenobi, humiliated Anakin Skywalker, and made the Jedi Council look like they needed a vocation. His presence alone carried the kind of weight that most shows would build an entire season around. And yet, in the back of our minds, there was the question of how the writers would use him. Would he be the final obstacle for Boba Fett? The one challenge that tested the very limits of his resolve? Would his history with Boba pay off in a way that felt earned and satisfying? Or would he be just another cameo, a quick nod to the fans before being brushed aside? The suspense was intoxicating, because Cad Bane is not the sort of character you waste. Even in his brief interactions before the final showdown, there was an undeniable tension. Every pause between words felt deliberate, every glance calculated, as if he was measuring his opponent and the audience at the same time. The way he taunted Boba about his Tusken tribe was a direct punch to the emotional core of the show. In those moments, it was easy to believe we were about to get something truly special. A duel not just of blasters but of legacies, of two survivors who had walked the same deadly path, but ended up in opposite places. That was the promise that hung in the air, waiting to be fulfilled, and then, just like that, it was over. All that build-up, all those years of anticipation, collapsed into a single scene that felt more like a side quest than the climax of a rivalry. Cad Bane, the master tactician, the legendary gunslinger, was outmaneuvered in what felt like seconds. It was like setting up a chess match between grandmasters and then knocking the board over after 3 moves. Boba Fett's victory should have been a statement, a hard-earned moment that proved his growth. Instead, it came across as rushed, like the show just needed to check him off the list of loose ends. The fight choreography was competent, sure, but nowhere near the kind of heart-pounding showdown fans imagined. The tension fizzled instead of exploding. There is a particular kind of sadness that comes when a beloved character gets their curtain call and it feels hollow. Cad Bane's final moments should have been a triumph for the character's legacy, even in defeat. Instead, they felt like a missed opportunity, as if he had been invited to the party just to be escorted out. For fans who grew up with the Clone Wars, his death was not just the loss of a character, but the loss of an era. He was one of the last living links to that period between the prequels and the original trilogy. A reminder of the galaxy's grittier corners. When he fell, it felt like a door quietly closing on that entire chapter of Star Wars. Even the duel itself was strangely muted. The dusty street, the quick exchange, the sudden end. It lacked the emotional build-up that could have made it linger in our minds for years. Think of how Maul's death in Rebels had layers of history and mutual respect behind it. Cad Bane deserved at least that much. There is also the sorrow of knowing that newcomers to the franchise will never see why he mattered. To them, he is just a blue alien who showed up and got shot. The years of development, the intricate rivalries, the brilliant escapes, they are all invisible if you have not seen the animated series. It is the kind of ending that leaves you wishing the writers had remembered that some characters are not just filler. They are the kind of figures who carry the weight of the galaxy on their shoulders. And when they fall, it should mean something. Even so, for the brief time he was on screen, Cad Bane was magnetic. The way the camera framed his arrival, the long walk into town, the slow tilt of his hat was pure Western cinema transplanted into Star Wars. You could feel the influence of old gunslinger films in every shot. His voice, delivered with that gravelly menace, was a masterclass in understated intimidation. Every word dripped with the confidence of a man who had outdrawn and outsmarted some of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. The tension in those scenes came as much from silence as from dialogue. The costume design was impeccable, translating his animated look into something tangible without losing its flair. The breathing apparatus, the weathered coat, the signature hat all looked lived in, as if he had stepped straight out of another, harsher part of the galaxy. Even his interactions with Boba hinted at a deeper story. Their history, though only briefly mentioned, gave weight to every glare and pause. It was the kind of chemistry that could have powered an entire season, maybe even an entire series. For a moment, you could almost forget the flaws of the execution. You could just sit back and admire how perfectly they had brought him to life. It was proof that Star Wars can still deliver moments that feel like they belong on the big screen. The beauty of Star Wars is that no character ever really has to be gone forever. Between flashbacks, prequels, and the occasional miraculous survival, there is always room to bring someone back for another story. Cad Bane may have fallen in the book of Boba Fett, but that does not mean his journey is finished. We could see his earlier years explored in live action or animation, showing how he became the galaxy's most feared bounty hunter. Imagine a Disney Plus series that follows him through the criminal underworld, crossing paths with fan favorites and dangerous new faces. There is also the possibility of filling in his missing years. What deals did he make after the Clone Wars, and how did his rivalry with Boba truly begin? These are stories that could add layers to both characters, while giving Bane the kind of spotlight he deserves. Even a single well-written flashback could give his death more impact in hindsight. Show us the shared history, the betrayals, the respect that might have existed under all that hostility. Let us feel the weight of that final duel the way we should have the first time. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.